Does it say recording?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, what is your name?
My name is Katelyn Austin.
What is your major?
My major is exceptional needs intense intervention teaching.
Okay. And what year are you at Ball State?
I'm going to graduate 2024. I'm a freshman right now.
Okay. And where is your hometown?
Brownsburg, Indiana, so right near Indy.
Okay, cool. I'm in Avon, so we're right next to each other. Okay. Why were you interested in taking this class specifically?
I was interested in taking this class when I was originally registering with the other person on Zoom this year because of the pandemic. She listed 2 of the other freshman classes, and I was like, I'm not too interested in those right now. And then she listed this class as a last one, and it was kind of an afterthought to it all. And I was like, that one sounds like the best one because we were coming out kind of in the middle of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement that was going on. So, like, it's still going on, but when the whole thing happened during the summer. And I was interested in this class because I'm becoming a teacher and I have the mindset that I want to be knowledgeable about this topic because it's affecting so many of my students and it's affecting me since I'm American. And I wanted to just know what was being said and be able to help my students if it has anything to do with race in America right now.
Okay, awesome. And what we have learned so far in this class, did you expect to learn this or did you have different expectations coming into this?
No, I had completely different expectations coming into this class. When I came in, I had so many expectations that aren't even close to what this class is actually like. One of my expectations was that everyone else in my class would be very tardif and very judgy, and that I wouldn't be able to say anything or I wouldn't feel comfortable to say anything as a shy person who doesn't really know much going in. And I was very afraid that I would be yelled at if I said something wrong. But then the first day of class, one of the fellow students said, I don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable because we're all humans and it's okay to mess up. And that really opened me up to this class. And then once we start going into it, we start learning about like more in-depth topics pertaining to yourself more than you would think. I thought we would just be talking about topics such as the Black Lives Matter movement and what's been going on in politics and both in America lately, like George Floyd, but it's really more like who yourself is as a person, like with anti-racism and how it's affecting places around you, like housing segregation in Muncie right now. So it's more something where you learn how society is shaping you and the others around you.
Okay, awesome. Good job. Okay, so where you're from, Brownsburg, is Brownsburg a very diverse community, or is it mostly white, mostly people of color, or is it diverse?
When I was in high school, I thought it was diverse. The high school has a pretty good mix of all different types of students, but mainly white. And I always had the perception that was diverse. But in the last summer, we had a lot of stories come out about Brownsburg and how Brownsburg got its first student who wasn't white in the late 90s or the early 90s. So it was really close to when I started school. And then there was also stories coming out that teachers had allegations of Brownsburg not being the most open school. And there's also been a lot of news stories around Brownsburg with the N-word and students not really complying with school policies around that. And so I just kind of opened my eyes that Brownsburg, even though there's some diversity in students, it's not really like a diverse mindset. Most of the teachers are white, and there's still a lot of stuff going on there that needs to be fixed in order for our school to open its eyes and for people to work to make it the school that we want to be.
I completely agree. That is exactly how Avon is. They're students that say the N-word and they are not punished by it, even though it hurts the students of color, and the white students are not punished about it, and it really makes me upset. So I definitely see where you are coming from.
I've noticed, I think Avon and Brownsburg both have the same kind of perception since we're so close and have the same things, because I know a lot of the white body, like they were just, a lot of people didn't know stuff, like I said, like a lot of people were very ignorant, and then there would be people speaking up about it, but nothing was really getting done in my school system.
So when you were younger and today, have you been like, did you think about race growing up and what it was, or did it take you a little while to figure it out?
I was very, I did not know what was going around me when I was young at all. I think I knew like everyone looks different and like the stuff you think of when you're a kid, but I didn't know like anything about society at all. I remember when I was little, I went to watch CNN with my classroom, and then I went to the bathroom. And on the CNN story, there was a story um, like about racism, and then like homosexuality, and I said that totally wrong, but it was about
Homosexuality?
that. And I went to the bathroom, and I was like, what is that? Because I had no idea. And the bad thing was I was in like fifth grade, and everyone around me was like, what are you talking about? And I had my eyes so close to situations around me because I was really raised by a lesbian couple of my best friend, and I was raised with them, and I had no idea what that was. And then people would talk to me about like racism happening at our school or places nearby, and I had no idea until I started like watching the news and learning about Black Lives Matter and stuff like that. But social media was really my main thing about learning about this topic, but social media isn't the best.
I feel like a lot, like even the news and everything, like not fake news, but they alter it sometimes, just like social media does. So you don't get the full picture or full story of what's going on.
I
So
think that was the really good thing about this class, because I go on TikTok, like that's my thing. And I go on Instagram and I see so many like perceptions and so many opinions, and people are telling others this is how to be not racist. And like that's what people are saying. But then I go into this class that actually has like knowledge, facts, and people who know what they're talking about, or have situations where they know what they're talking about. And it's like, this is how to be an anti-racist. Like this is actually how you can go about it. And this is actual what we have learned in class. And it's, I don't know, it's just a total switch of some of the fake news or just opinions you see on social media today.
exactly. I completely agree with you on that. So, when race is brought up in a conversation between either your family, your friends, or just people that you hear out in public, what are those conversations normally like? Are they more hostile, more calm, or like in the middle?
I coming to Ball State and going into this class was like such a wake up experience for me, because my in Brownsburg and my life at home, it's like everyone is so hostile about it, and they kind of have the perception it's like, oh, it's their fault, like, but it's like a marginalized group or like a group of people. It's like it's not the group of people's fault. Or they're like very hostile, and like everyone gets upset at Thanksgiving dinner because so many people are shouting stuff that just doesn't line up or isn't true. And once I came to Ball State, like the students' perspective, and in this class, it was totally different. And so my mind completely switched to how I saw that you could talk about topics such as this one.
Awesome. I definitely agree with that because Ball State, like, I feel like it needs to be an open campus about where you can talk about stuff, but also I feel like some of the people on campus aren't doing enough to have things be talked about openly.
Yeah, I definitely feel that way. I think I get so shocked just thinking about this, because the honors college, even though we're not totally in depth with this yet, like we were able to take this class of talking about anti-racism, but all my other friends who are not in the honors college, they have no experience talking about that stuff. But talking about this and in society is such an important thing for growing into adulthood and learning how to treat others and talk to others. And so it just shocks me that it's not more of a widespread thing across Ball State to have these conversations, because I fear accepting others in like the workplace is also like really important, and they may not have that if they don't have classes like in the honors college.
Exactly. I feel like this class has made me more appreciative and understanding more, just like as you said. So, okay. So at Ball State or your hometown or anywhere else you have been, have you experienced or witnessed racism in your life?
I think at Brownsburg in the high school, I witnessed a lot of microaggressions. One example that pops up in my head is I would be sitting in class, and I had a really nice interior design teacher. She was the sweetest, but every day after girls would get their hair braided, she would go up to touch their hair. And it was just the most uncomfortable experience. Like, she was saying, oh, it's so cute. And like, it was the most uncomfortable experience for everyone, because like, you wouldn't do that to other people. And she like claimed it. She was like, oh, I think it's so pretty that you guys get to do that. She was a white teacher. But it just made everyone in the classroom uncomfortable, and we just did not know why she thought it was okay to do that to her students. And it was out of a place of her just trying to be kind, but she definitely, if you look back on it, it was probably not a moment you would think was good.
It's exactly how microaggression works. Is it's normally things you don't think about. It's like an unconscious act that you do, thinking it won't be like, it's not negative to them or you, but in reality it is negative to them, and it makes them feel a certain way that you would not understand, I guess, because you are not in that position.
One,
So
one another example that's kind of different from microaggressions is, I know a lot of people in Brownsburg felt this, but whenever we would be talking about slavery or anything having to do with Blackness or African Americans in the class, everyone, like, I noticed that a lot of people would look at the Black students in the class to make them extremely uncomfortable. And that happened so much at Brownsburg, and I didn't really hear one of the students called everyone else out on it, but it was just something that there was a lot of stuff going on Brownsburg that people did not even realize they were doing, or they were doing it but did not realize that was hurting someone else. And so people would have to be told before they figured it out.
that is a great example, another great example. So one of the themes of the class has been race structures that race structures our global society. It's not just something over here or over there, or something that only affects otherized or racialized groups of people. We're all living in the system, and we all have the capability to imagine and to help create something different and more equal society. Where does your hometown fit in the system, and where do you fit in that system?
I think my hometown fits in the system by being a place that still has a lot of growth to do, but it's like slowly getting to a place where um, it can be more equal. It's getting to that place, but it still is at the place where it's becoming and learning more growth, and especially in the teachers too. I know they're trying to learn as well how to get up there. For me, how I fit in society is, I still think, even though after I've taken this class, I still think I'm trying to learn how to be an anti-racist myself. I would consider myself to like be an anti-racist, but I want to do stuff that can help others and work towards understanding it more, because I want to make sure everything I say follows the anti-racist mindset, kind of. And I want to make sure that I'm doing it correctly. I don't want to say, oh, I'm an anti-racist, but then fall back into an I can't say this. Like a mindset where you think you're not racist, but you're saying microaggressions and all of that. I want to make sure I continue to be an anti-racist and how I've learned in this class and by Kenny's book.
I definitely agree with you talking about Brownsburg and how Brownsburg fits into the system. I feel like so many places around the US are still learning how to like fit into the system and navigating the ways of how to deal with it. And I feel like if some places, if they just automatically jump into it without learning how to fit into the system and understanding, I feel like that will definitely be detrimental to society.
One of the things at Brownsburg that is definitely noticed, I said earlier that my school has more diversity than you would probably think, but a lot of, like, since it started out in the 90s, so the school system is still, like, getting used to it, but us students who grew up into it, we didn't notice it. But someone mentioned to one of my teachers once, they went, why do the students segregate themselves? So if you look at Brownsburg, it's all the white female students sitting together. It's all the black male students together, sitting together. Everyone's segregated into their own groups. And I'm not saying that they don't talk to each other, but it's definitely they have their own groups and their own mindsets all together. And one of my teachers just said that we naturally do that. But I still think there's a lot of growth to be done so we can all kind of come together as a school, because there's definitely like certain stereotypes and certain groups like that would fit together if you just looked on the outside of our school. So I still think there's a lot of growth to do in those areas within the students themselves.
I definitely feel like with you saying how the students are almost segregated, like the white female students and the black male students, I feel like maybe it's like that because they don't feel accepted into the other groups. So I like where you went with that. So how have the events that have happened around campus or just in the US, like the election or the Trump riots going through campus and just anything else that you can think of, how has that shaped your perspective and your understanding of racism and anti-racism?
I think it's definitely made me more open-minded because I came from such a conservative like family and conservative town. So I kind of went into this class with a certain mindset, and I was like, this class isn't going to change any of that. But then all that's going around after it. So we have seen the pandemic, for example, that's called the coronavirus, was nicknamed the Chinese virus by some people. And then you just look at that, like that's evidence to me. Like I need evidence kind of like with my mindset that I used to have. And so I saw that and I was like, that's not okay. So I guess like the events that have happened so far with the election and all of that, it's just a lot of evidence that just shows that something is wrong with society and needs to be fixed.
I agree. It's really, even with the Black Lives Matter movement and the innocent killings of Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and George Floyd, like that really shows that there is something wrong. And I believe that influenced the election too. So, have you been involved in any anti-racist actions or activities this fall on Ball State campus?
I was, besides taking this class, which I feel like was a huge step for me as a person who was very closed off and didn't know much, was like one of my first big steps into learning about how to be an anti-racist and learning about literally everything, Black Lives Matter, this whole like the whole topic of society and racism. But I haven't done any like activities or events, but I really want to. But the one problem that's, it's not a problem, but it's kind of holding me back is I still feel as a person, I'm trying to find my place and like my place as an ally to speak and what I can do to help, because I'm a white female, so I don't exactly like, I'm not a part of that. And I know there's many ways from learning from this class, but I still think as Katelyn Austin, I'm still trying to find what I can best do to help and partake in these activities.
I completely agree with you because if you were to like start your own activity and not partake in an activity that was already established or to help with anti-racism, I feel like that would maybe take away from the point
Yeah.
of the whole basically whole point of the activity being going on. So, do you think Ball State's campus has a issue with racism that you have seen so far?
When I went into Ball State, I did not think that it had like an issue. Like I didn't think it was an issue. I thought Ball State was pretty diverse when I originally went into it. But after taking this class and really looking at the situation, I have learned that Ball State is like any other campus, and it still wants to have a good image, and always doing the right thing is not always the best image somehow, I would say. So I learned about the situation last year where a student got called on by for the cops, and it was a racial situation. And I've learned there's other situations that have happened on campus and how they've set up teams to help with those situations. And I was like, it's good that they're taking steps to set up these teams. And I was not aware, and I think that's probably my white privilege that I didn't see that until I learned about these stories and activities that have happened. But when I read that email from the president after the events of the election and the kind of the rioters, the supporters that were going around and messing with Ball State students, how he sent out an email that was kind of, it wasn't directly talking about the situation, or it wasn't handling it correctly. And I know there's so many people on campus who know how to handle it, but it's the students mostly, or it's very few of the faculty. And so there's a lot of people who have the right ideas, but I don't think they're in charge, or it's not getting to the people in charge because it's being stopped somehow. So I think there's a lot of people on Ball State that knows what needs to be done to fix it, but it's not there yet, and I hope that it can be there soon.
I definitely agree because I feel like they're almost like when the whole Trump riots and everything was going on campus, and we got the email by President Emmer, I believe it was, of the Honors College. He didn't specifically say what was going on. He just said the events of this past week or weekend. I feel like they're trying to sugarcoat what truly happened. And I agree that they know what's going on, but I feel like it's hard for them to maybe admit it and find a way to fix it. So, based off of that, what do you think, or what next steps do you think Ball State and the administrators and everyone can take to increase positive relations on campus?
I think Ball State needs to kind of do what other campuses have not done. So, like, we have read some articles about the top 10 universities and how they're kind of closed off, even though they have so many students, and it still has like the same situations over again, and then the students are being affected negatively. So I think Ball State needs to kind of like go out in the open and kind of like admit to the situations are happening. Like, we're not perfect, but we are working towards it. Because I feel like that could draw more students in than having the perfect school that nothing happens at. Because I would want to be at a college where they're not afraid to say, this happened, this is how we are handling it, and this is where we're going to go about it. Because everyone deserves to feel safe, and everyone deserves to feel included, and that they're not being pushed away. Because if you're a marginalized group and something is happening against you, it's kind of like, does my college not want me to be here? Like, do they not feel I'm as important to them? And tons of our students are paying so much that we deserve the right to know what's going on. If I didn't know what was going on with the supporters that were going and hurting and going after Ball State students, I didn't know that. And I think that's very important thing to know. And I would want to know if any of the professors are saying bad stuff about the students or going after them based off them being a part of a marginalized group. I would want to know both the negative and the positives of the campus.
I agree. Okay. So Ball State is a very diverse places we have seen on campus, but it is historically and it still is predominantly a white institution. How have you navigated that diversity and the whiteness, or the sense of whiteness since you arrived at campus?
I think when I went into it, I wasn't thinking it was going to be so white. So, um, I didn't think it would be so white. So, for this class, for example, this sounds totally off. I had a totally different perception of the class of Honors 199. When I went into it, I thought it was only going to be people who were not white. And I don't know why I had that perception, but when I joined the class for the first time, I was like, wow, there's a lot of white people in this class. And I kind of opened my eyes that Ball State is kind of no different to other schools in Indiana, because I know other schools in Indiana have the same situation kind of going on, depending on the school. So it kind of just opened my eyes that Ball State, like I said earlier, it's like no other, it's different, but it's like no other school really. They still are facing the same situations.
I agree. Okay, do you think Ball State is doing a good job at including the marginalized groups and the different cultures that are present at Ball State?
I think they are doing a good job at it because they're working on the multicultural center, which I think is really good. It's good that it's right near where a lot of people, like a lot of dorms are, so it's not hidden away, because I feel like the past one was kind of hidden away a bit where it was at. So this one kind of sheds more light on the situation, and so people know where they can go, because it's kind of in the smack middle of campus. So people can go to a place where they can feel included. And I know there's a lot of activities that go on that also are directly to talk to people and to get information out, and so people can feel included. I think that there, I think even though there's all these activities and stuff, it could definitely be more spread out and more talked about, because a lot of these activities I did not know until people from the Multicultural Center came to our class. So I definitely feel like if there was more talk about it, it could be a bigger situation than it is right now at Ball State.
I feel like maybe it hasn't been, like, this is not an excuse, but maybe it hasn't been talked about too much just because of the pandemic, maybe. Like, even though they still have Zooms and everything, like, there's no hands-on stuff that you can do at the multicultural center. I mean, that's not an excuse, but I am very excited for the multicultural center to open because, like, as you said, it's like right in the smack dab center of campus, and more people will be able, like, they'll walk past it on their way to classes, on their way to get lunch, dinner, breakfast, whatever they do. So I feel like the placement for that right now is great, and I feel like maybe when this one opens up, since it'll be like right in the middle of campus, I feel like more students will go there, maybe to feel a more sense of belonging and maybe safety.
I didn't think about that. I didn't think about the pandemic, but it really does like place a kind of hold on the inclusive part of the campus. And since everything's online, it's kind of shaped differently. So I feel like the campus also did kind of take a step back this year, because everything is social media based, and we see a lot of negative stuff on social media right now and negative stuff on the internet. So I feel like a lot of the students don't feel the hold and inclusive and togetherness part of the campus this year.
Okay. And one last question for this. So Ball State is holding, like, with the administrators and everything, this Thursday they are holding a talk, I guess you would call it, where it's students can come, it's open mic, and then they can talk to the administrators and basically tell them what they have thought about or how they have felt with the racist incidents and any other incidents that have happened on campus, basically mostly the Trump riot that went through campus that were threatening students and making many students feel unsafe. How do you feel about the university doing that? Do you think that is a step in the right direction?
I think that is really a step in the right direction because I do feel students need to be heard. Because, like I said earlier, I feel like a lot of the student body has the right ideas and right beliefs of our generation. And I am really grateful that we have professors and faculty on this campus, like Bartlett, who are actively going after to have these activities for the students because I really feel that these activities can change campus. I really would like to go to the event myself, but I don't know. I think I would just watch it because I want to know what people think about Ball State, and I want to know other people's views. Because as a white girl on campus, I don't think I really get to see how Ball State is as it is. Kind of like from others and from this class, I have learned, but I don't think I get to really see the whole perception of Ball State University and how it's handling the situation.
I definitely feel like this will be a great place where students can feel safe and feel like they can speak their mind and what they're feeling with what is going on without feeling like there will be backlash to them or feel like maybe it would make them feel unsafe if it was just normal. But I feel like this is a great idea for campus to do, and what they're doing is, I definitely think it's a step in the right direction as well.
I think it's pushing the students to not feel alone. And I know this year a lot of students have felt alone. I have felt alone. And the situation was very scary, but we kind of are of the Trump supporters was very scary, but everyone kind of had to deal with it alone. And now we're in a safe spot where we can reflect back on what happened to the students of Ball State University in 2020.
So it's definitely been a very big year with the pandemic and the election and Black Lives Matter movement. So it is going to be a very interesting piece of history.
Yes.
So back to this class, what has this course meant to you personally, or how has it influenced you or made an impact in your schooling or just you personally?
I feel like it has definitely opened my mind up more. I've mentioned this several times of being in a place where everything was kind of closed-minded and hometown mindset. So I put this in my reflection paper earlier, and I'm really embarrassed about it. But Bartlett, he was like, "You are not deep enough in any of these reflection papers." And the honors college is very deep, but I don't have that in me. So I finally admitted I used to be the type of person to say, I don't see color. I regret that so much. I saw someone post that the other day on social media, and I was like, no way, they just said that. But I said that. And that was saying I don't see color is so not good for society because seeing color helps move society forward because we can see what's wrong in society with the criminal justice system or policies, and we can also see differences, which is incredibly important. And I just regret having that mindset. Another thing I wrote in my reflection paper is Kennedy talks about this a little bit, but white supremacists not wanting to tear down Confederate statues. I went to New Orleans a few years ago, and I saw a Confederate statue, and I was like, why are they trying to get rid of history? Why are they tearing it down? Just leave it alone. And now that I look back on it, I'm like, that mindset was so bad because that statue really did tear America apart. It's not putting us back together. It's not working on society. It's just sitting there. And this class has kind of shaped my mindset more. And I just realized that I guess society kind of affected me, even though I didn't think about it affecting me as a person, since I'm just a white girl in a hometown in Indiana. But it has shaped me more than I thought it would. And I think it shaped others more than they thought it would in this class.
I feel like what you were saying about was it the Confederate statue in New Orleans?
Yeah.
I feel like that is a piece of history, but it was the negative side of history. It's not on the right side of history it should be in. And there have been instances, like, say, for example, Lady Antebellum, the music artist. That was tied to racism back in the slavery times, and that began to get backlash, so they had to change their name. So I feel like there have been so many instances where, I don't know if it's because of the Black Lives Matter movement this summer and this year, but there have been so many instances where it has come up and they're having to change their names because it's negatively correlated. Just as you were saying with the Confederate statue, like, yes, the South was pro-slavery, and yes, I guarantee it, so many racists still in the South, but that doesn't mean that Confederate statue should be there.
Yeah, I also learned about my mindset with like pop culture and like with Lady Antebellum, and like how there was, I don't know what it's called, but it was a syrup brand, and they wanted their icon to be, yeah, I think
Okay.
it was that one. But they wanted like the brand to be redone, and I used to be like that. I can I used to have the side where it's like, oh, it's just syrup. But like if people really fear this way, and if society feels this way, it should be done. If society needs to move forward and not have the mindset that if it doesn't affect you, it doesn't need to be done.
Completely agree. So, what was your favorite aspect of this semester that you learned?
My favorite one was probably, I learned this from my website resource review, and I won't let go and stop talking about it. But I learned about the topic of saviorism, and this is when you talk for groups, marginalized groups that you are not a part of. An example is the speaker was a woman, and she got the comment. She was taking her keys off of the chain, and a mayor says, "Are you going to break in there? Do you need help with that?" And so it's kind of like he was speaking for her as a woman, and her dad kind of also spoke for him. And so people can speak for groups that they are not a part of. A lot, like as a female, I think I've seen a lot of people speak for females both on social media and in real life in any marginalized group, and I just realized I don't want to do that. Like I don't want to speak for someone. I don't want to speak for like any group. And because I don't want to say the wrong information or feel like they don't have any power in who they are as individuals. And I think that was so important for me to learn as a future educator and someone who just wants to lead future generations and kids, because I want them to know that they can be comfortable in who they are and they can speak for what they believe in, and they don't have to have anyone else talking for them, because it really does harm groups, because they should have their own voice. Women should have their own voice. um, Everyone should have their own voice. So I think that was a big thing I learned this year, just allowing people to speak and allowing them to have a voice. Because I know my family at Thanksgiving dinner, like I said, they would say like, oh, this is their mindset, this is how they think, like different marginalized groups, but you don't know until you are them.
Exactly. And what you were saying about how you can't speak for a marginalized group or a minority group, I actually learned that in my website resource review as well. And it was talking about Black Lives Matter movements. And it's saying if a white person were to start a Black Lives Matter movement, it would take away from the purpose of the Black Lives Matter movement, because it's not people of color starting it, it's white people starting it. And it says you need to, instead of starting your own, you need to already join one that is run or led by a group of people of color or just a single person of color. But I definitely think that talking for someone when you really shouldn't, I don't think that is like not a good idea, because you're not allowing them to express how they truly feel, because you're expressing basically how you would feel in their shoes almost, but not allowing them to express how they feel in the shoes that they are in. So based on that, Oh, I think you already kind of talked about it, but what will you take with you from what like you've learned this semester?
What I'll take from what I learned this semester, it's just more to, I guess, for my place as a white woman, to listen more. I feel I feel like in the past when I would learn about these topics, I would kind of be closed off, and I would just be like, "Oh, this is how it is." Um, I used to have the idea, even though we learned totally different in this class, that I'm not sure exactly how to say it, but black people would like get pulled over more. They were like criminals more. But like we've learned this class that that's not true at all. And but I used to like that's what I heard from people. So I was like, oh, okay. So I think I want to like listen to marginalized groups and actually research. No social media, because there's a lot of opinions that aren't right, even if they're trying to be good or trying to be helpful. It's just not what it actually is. And I also want to make sure that I don't do any microaggressions. um I think microaggressions are something that's easy to do if you're not knowledgeable or you don't really think about it like microaggressions. So I want to make sure that what I'm saying is actually like helping, and I actually want to be a person that people can feel like that I am an ally and an anti-racist if they need to talk to me, because my field is a white field mainly, for elementary schools, and I want to go in mainly elementary schools from what I've seen, and I want to make sure that all my students feel like they can come to me, and I want to make sure that all my friends and my family can come to me, and I won't like speak for them if they ever come to me, because I know there's situations where you can go to someone and they start speaking for you. And I just want to make sure that I'm open and I'll listen because I've learned about topics such as how to be an anti-racist.
So, based off that, what do you think it means to be anti-racist?
I believe it means there's a lot of different parts to be anti-racist, and from what we've learned so far, I feel like everyone can kind of be one, and everyone's different. So I feel like everyone kind of can be one in their own way of how they want to go about doing it, but still following like the stuff. But I think anti-racist is like seeing the differences, but like continuing to believe people are equal and to work against these racist policies. But people can work against these policies in different ways. So everyone can kind of go about their own ways to be an anti-racist, but of course following it. But I just think the important part is to make sure that you see the difference, but continue to believe they are equal. So you're not like saying stuff for other groups or putting them on a pedestal or below when they're not. Just seeing them for what they are and as equal to you.
Good job. I like that. I really like that answer. So, what has changed or what you have learned? I think I might have. Did I ask you what have you learned that has changed your perspective the most?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay. I didn't know if you kind of answered it or if it kind of just came up. So, based on what we have seen now in 2020 with the election, the pandemic, the Black Lives Matter movement, what do you think the US will look like in the future, whether it be 5, 10, 20, 100 years? What do you think it will look like? Do you think it will look like the same US it is today? Do you think it will be divided? Or what do you think?
I think it might, in the future, I still think it's gonna be divided, but in a different way. Um, from what I've seen of our generation, which I feel like generations after are gonna kind of follow similarly to that, but our generation is very strong on our views. But I feel like our generation doesn't always go about it the proper way, or they are kind of more extreme on these views, and which is good, but every generation has their faults. But I still feel like since the older people are dying out, I feel like it's gonna start moving from like our generation's views, and it's good that now that we have a politician in there that's going to be more open and not a white supremacist like we have now, But I feel like it's definitely going to be working towards it, but there's still probably going to be a divide in how we go about getting better policies and how we go about following and changing society. But I feel like it's going to start to get better now that a lot of people have acknowledged who our president is now. And the people have made their choice to flip to another one.
Do you think, since we are getting rid of the white supremacist, racist, homophobic Donald Trump, do you think that will, Joe Biden coming into office, do you think that will cause a divide next year in January?
I think it definitely would cause a divide. There's always going to be people who have the really strong mindset. You cannot say that those people really have a strong mindset, but I feel that now our country can start looking towards a new future. One thing I really like about Joe Biden is he has said in some of his speeches, he has gone like, I don't want people to think, I don't know the exact words, but he's kind of had the mindset that he wants to bring America together again and to like not look at if it's on what party group you are in. He just wants to bring America together again. And I think that's really important because I have never seen, even though I'm young, I haven't really seen America be so torn apart than now. It's definitely like you're a Trump supporter or you're like, and or you're like very extreme liberal is what a lot of people would say. But I think we now can just start growing into be the America we want to be, because there is a lot of people who are moderate, but it's now just seen as you're either extreme or you're this extreme. So it's now just like Americans we can work towards America as a whole instead of what party group you are on. But I still think it's going to take a lot of time. But that's where I want us to be. I want people to not see each other for what party group they are in and more of what policies or how they want society to be shaped in.
I really like that. And as well, like with Biden, like I feel like with Trump, he divided the country more. And Biden, what he wants to do is he wants to reconstruct the country. But I also feel like you're talking about like wanting to make America the America we want, but I feel like we haven't had the America we want maybe ever. Like it's been, whether like it's the feminist movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, civil rights movement, equal pay, anything of that nature, I feel like the country has always been divided in one way or another.
Especially in topics such as this class, as in intersectionality and like racism and anti-racism. I feel like our country is like I said earlier, kind of associate them with political groups, which I think on both sides is not good. Like associating one with like Republicans as racist is which is what I hear, and liberals as anti-racist, which I think it's negative to have that mindset of associating, because obviously the groups are so big, you can't really categorize it like that, and that's tearing America apart more. So I feel like we need to start working as Americans to find what we want to do, especially in policies like this, and not divide us between this topic, because anti-racism and racism is such way more bigger in society than what political group you are in.
Exactly. And I have heard that as well, like that if you support Trump, you're a racist or white supremacist. And if you support Biden, like you're automatically anti-racist. But that you can support Trump, you may not support his racist ideologies or his racist actions and how he has handled the Black Lives Matter movement, but you can support some of his policies. And then like there's just some things with both of them, like personally I don't think there was the best candidate at all this year. I think definitely there was one better than the other, but not one like top notch, like this is like round of applause, like So it's going to be a big change because Biden has such different perspectives and outlooks than Trump did. I don't know if it's just how he is or because he's coming in from the Democratic Party, but it's going to be a big change, and I'm a little nervous for it.
I think I am ready to kind of make that switch because I didn't really see Donald Trump. I heard about it, but I didn't really see Donald Trump as a white supremacist until this class, because a lot of people who do it would be like 13-year-olds on TikTok or on social media, and they wouldn't back it up with anything. But in this class, we've had actual like research and I've read stuff that kind of back that up. So now I have that mindset. So now I just want to like, other countries have said that us having a white supremacist president has really reflected a lot on our country. So I just want to I'm just happy that now we can start working on more of an anti-racist, even if I'm not saying any views on the president, like on the new president or anything, but like more in power, anti-racist, more in power. He's not like a white supremacist or consider as much as Donald Trump is what I'm saying. So it's more someone that we can actually be proud of is in power, who could work towards these policies that we would want, instead of Donald Trump, who's kind of not done that in his time.
Completely agree. Last one right now. Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
In 10 years, I'm going to be a special ed teacher. And I really want to make sure that in my classroom, they know it's okay to see difference, because I feel like growing up, I like felt like, oh, everyone's like 99% the same, which is true, but it was like I didn't have the mindset that it was okay to see difference. So I want people to know that it's okay. And I want people to, my classroom, to know that I can be an ally in anything that they believe in, and they can come and talk to me about anything they believe in, regarding situations such as even racism or sexuality or anything regarding that. I want to make sure that my classroom is respectful. I want to be a teacher who calls out microaggressions. I want to be a teacher that makes sure that people know what they're saying, because I know as like younger students don't really know what they're saying. And I want to be a teacher that teach history as it is. Like we talked earlier in class today how a lot of history is kind of whitewashed, but I want to make sure my students, I'm not going to put anything on them, obviously that's not okay, but I want to make them to know that history, there is good and there is bad.
Do you, based off that question that I asked you, will you remember any of the stuff, whether it be from what you've learned from class or what has gone on this year in 2020?
I think I'll definitely remember topics that I feel like have hit me the most, like microaggressions and saviorism. I feel like I have seen myself kind of in a new light, so I definitely want to keep that light living on. I never saw myself as like, even though females are kind of considered a marginalized group, I never realized that females kind of go through different stuff, no matter um go through different stuff depending on their gender. I never realized that. And so I definitely want to like realize things on how it is. Like I want to like look at stuff and be like, oh, that was a microaggression, or like that was because I'm female. Because I feel like there's so much that happens to people, but they're just like, oh, they were just saying that, but it's based off of the society views of how we have shaped into such a racist society, or a society that's a big part of it, racism.
It goes so much deeper than what is on the surface most of the times.
Yeah, I want to look into it deeper is what I'm trying to get at. I want to like know what's going on more than just looking at it and be like, oh well, like that's just bullying. No, it's actually racism at its core. Like I want to know what's going on.
I feel like if you don't know what is truly going on, you won't have the knowledge or the understanding that you should. And if you do, like know exactly what's going on, you will have better knowledge and be able to talk about it more and just kind of let it flow freely, I guess. Because I feel like if you don't know what you're talking about and you were to say something wrong, then that could obviously offend someone, whether it's marginalized group or student or whoever it is. So, okay, I have a few questions left. So,
Okay.
the first one being, have you had any acts of microaggression directed towards you?
I definitely feel like this is kind of, I have taken a lot of leadership roles and stuff in activities such as theater. I do theater. And I want to take leadership roles and stuff, but a lot of it is based off mayors stepping in. Even if I have the leadership role, it's more that they're being depended on more, or I'll say something and then they'll look at a mayor in the cast instantly. And so I didn't even realize that until I took this class, but it's really, even if I have the title, I may not have the position in their minds because they decide to kind of, even if they're not doing it intentionally, they still decide to look at the mayor in the situation instead of me. And that's happened several times. And I kind of always just let it go. But now I know what it is and the reasons behind it. So I definitely have connected that more in my brain.
Do you think next time that an act of microaggression is directed towards you that you will say something about it, or do you think you'll just let it go again?
Where it's hard when you're not in, you have a position of power but you're not the complete position of power, like there's still people over you. So I don't want to say anything that might cause it to turn into a huge situation, but I think I'll recognize my emotions more, because in the past I would probably get upset with the boy for answering, or the mayor in the situation. I would probably be like more upset and more like they don't care about what I'm trying to say, or have all these emotions behind it. But now I know it's more like, oh, like they're following society, like they're doing something that they're programmed to do, because I'm sure those people did not think through it as much as in the past I would have thought.
Okay, one last question before we wrap things up, unless you have something else to say. How do you feel about intersectionality?
I think learning about intersectionality was so important to me, um, to me to learn about this year. In the website resource review video I saw, it said having intersectionality in a group, either allies or just like in a marginalized group, if there's a rally or something there, it's important to have intersectionality to properly display the group. Like it's not just a bunch of white females in that group. There's definitely more people in, I don't know how, and there's more people. So let's say we're having a rally and it's about Black Lives Matter. It's more than just Black men there. You need intersectionality there to properly display the group and to show what it truly is. Even if it's just allies too, there's much more to it than just one group. And I think learning about intersectionality is also so important because it probably shows our society and how it's much more complex than just the norm or the basic, or just what people consider a norm. And I just think it really just shows how society and groups are actually like. And I think that's important to see, because I don't want to see anything as a norm. I want to see it as American people working together, or American people being shaped in different ways, such as being a woman or being Black. I feel like it shows Americans and different communities way more if there's intersectionality involved.
I agree. I definitely think that you including the Black Lives Matter movement or rally, not just having males of color, but needing to include the females of color, because if it were just the males, I feel like it like you talked about earlier in your story about the students at your high school being segregated into groups, I feel like that would also maybe tie into this being segregated and only maybe about males of color, but you do need the females of color because they are in this war against racism as well.
Intersectionality also allows to see different viewpoints because like, let's say we're talking about, I don't know, we're talking about Black Lives Matter, for example, that you would get way different viewpoints if a girl is talking about it than a guy. And if it's all like, if there's different groups of people, you can really see what's going on and the truth behind society and the movement than if it's just one group speaking for it.
Completely agree with you. Okay, is there anything else that you would like to add or say?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. Well, Katelyn, thank you very much for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. Okay.